Have you ever felt it? That quiet whisper in the back of your mind, telling you something needs to change. Or maybe it's not a whisper at all, but a persistent echo, bouncing off the walls of your life. If you're hearing that echo right now, this message might just be for you. You're standing at the edge of a fundamental shift. We all know the feeling. It's the Groundhog Day syndrome. The uncanny sensation that even though the calendar moves forward, you're trapped in a familiar loop. You wake up, and a subtle weight settles over you. You go through the motions, the morning coffee, the commute, the meetings, and by midday, an unsettling sense of déjà vu creeps in. You have the same conversations, maybe even argue about the same old things. You break a promise you made to yourself the night before, perhaps to start a new habit, only to fall back into the old one with a quiet sigh of resignation. This isn't just monotony. It's the quiet architecture of a pattern, a self-reinforcing structure that pulls you into the same situations, the same emotional ruts, and the same outcomes. It shows up in the way we handle our careers. Maybe you've changed jobs 3 times in 5 years, each time telling yourself the new office, the new boss, or the new team will be different. Yet, within a few months, you find yourself in the same emotional rut, feeling unappreciated, unmotivated, and irritated by the grind. The scenery switched, but the underlying cycle remained. It manifests in our relationships. The names and faces might change, but the script is eerily familiar. You leave a draining partnership, promising yourself you'll be more discerning next time, only to find yourself entangled with someone who possesses the same emotional unavailability or codependent traits as the last person. The ending is always predictable because you're operating from the same internal blueprint. You repainted the room, but all the old furniture is still there, crowding the same space. This constant, circular motion is exhausting. It leads to that unique flavor of frustration where you're working incredibly hard, pushing, striving, and trying, but feel like you're getting nowhere. It's the unsettling realization that despite all your effort, you're not moving forward. The true genius of the loop is how convincing the surface differences can be. On paper, you did change jobs. You did meet someone new. You did start with the best of intentions to turn over a new leaf. And yet, the atmosphere, the feeling, the ultimate outcome, remains eerily the same. The hard truth is, this loop isn't working against you. It's simply doing its job. Our brains are hardwired for efficiency. Habit loops are deeply woven into our neural pathways. Every time you default to the same reaction, whether it's self-criticism, procrastination, or staying silent when you need to speak up, you are literally reinforcing highways in your brain. The more you travel that neural road, the faster and easier it becomes to default back there. Your brain, in its brilliant quest to conserve energy, defaults to the path of least resistance. And for a long time, that path was the familiar, even if it was painful. But here's the crucial part. This loop is not a mistake. It's not a punishment. What if every repeated outcome is less about punishing you and more about alerting you? Imagine the loop itself pointing like a sign, a persistent alarm bell saying, "You've outgrown this, and it's time for something new." Loops aren't designed to make you miserable. They are feedback mechanisms. They are messages from your own life system, telling you that the setup you're in no longer fits the person you've become. The frustration you feel isn't a flaw. It's the signal. It's the discomfort of an old shell becoming too tight. Once you start seeing these loops for what they are, not curses, but clues, you move from feeling trapped to feeling guided. The repeating noise softens and begins to feel like a direction. The echo you hear isn't a memory of a past mistake. It's the sound of a new path calling to you. The breaking point isn't a dramatic explosion or a sudden, theatrical epiphany. It's often far more subtle, arriving not with fireworks, but with a quiet, internal pause. It's that flicker of recognition, a still point in a spinning world, when you realize, wait a second, I've been here before. This pattern. It never really ends differently, does it? That 1 second stutter in your system is the first crack in the loop. This isn't an intellectual breakthrough. It's an instinctive knowing. It's the moment when the illusion of newness shatters, revealing the familiar and worn-out script underneath. Think of it like this. You're sitting down to watch a new movie you've been excited about. 15 minutes in, you get that strange feeling of déjà vu. A line of dialogue sounds familiar. A character's choice feels predictable. Suddenly, it hits you. This isn't a new movie at all. It's a film you've seen a dozen times, just with a different title. A flash of disappointment lands as you realize you know exactly where this story is going. That's how life loops operate. You're convinced you've stumbled into something new because the details are different, but the script is identical. This flicker of recognition is often accompanied by a flash of weariness, a moment of profound sadness. It's the disappointment that lands when you once again realize where you've ended up. But here's the crucial twist. That very disappointment is the key. It's the uncomfortable truth that finally makes you receptive to a different possibility. What this small moment of awareness does is monumental. It creates a space, a tiny gap between the stimulus and your habitual reaction. Before, a difficult conversation would immediately trigger defensiveness. A frustrating workday would lead directly to an evening of mindless distraction. The loop was an automatic, seamless process. But now, with that flicker of recognition, a microscopic pause appears. In that pause, you have a choice. Consider a small, powerful example. You're in a stressful meeting at work. The client says something that feels unfair, and you feel the familiar impulse to snap back defensively, to prove you're right. It's the same impulse that led to problems at your last job. But in that 1 second of recognition, you stop. You don't react. You just sit with the feeling. And in that tiny space, you choose a new way to respond, maybe with a calm question instead of a sharp retort. You don't need to change the entire world in that moment. You only need to choose a different path than the one you've always followed. This single, deliberate pause is not small. It is a monumental act of rebellion against a lifetime of conditioning. It's the moment you step out of the role of the predictable actor and become the conscious director of your own story. The moment you see the loop for what it is, a worn-out pattern, you simultaneously see that you are no longer bound to it. The realization itself is the first true break. It's the moment your system stutters, even if only for a second, and that stutter signals that a fundamental change is now possible. The echo isn't just a memory of the past. It's a sound from a future that is finally within your grasp. As you begin to listen to that echo and consciously seek a new path, something fascinating begins to happen. The universe, or your subconscious, starts to respond in kind. This response doesn't arrive as a grand, dramatic revelation, but as a series of subtle nudges and quiet signals. A friend you haven't spoken to in years suddenly reaches out with an invitation to a coffee meeting. While scrolling through social media, you stumble upon a post or a video, perhaps like this one, that speaks directly to an issue you've been grappling with. You may even wake up one morning with an unexplainable burst of energy, a lightness in your step that doesn't seem to make sense given the day before. These aren't random coincidences. They are synchronicities, small, meaningful alignments that serve as a compass, confirming that your inner system is recalibrating. They are the breadcrumbs leading you toward a new, more aligned reality. In the beginning, these signals might be so subtle you almost miss them. We are so trained to look for grand, life-altering fireworks, the new job with a massive salary increase, the dramatic public milestone, that we often disregard the quiet signs that prove a deeper transformation is underway. But it is in these small moments that the most profound change is first whispered. Think of someone who decides to commit to a small, new habit, maybe cutting back on late-night phone scrolling. On the surface, this is a tiny action, one you might not think would change much. But within the first week, they notice something strange. They start sleeping better. Their mornings don't feel as heavy, and they find they have a small window of clear-mindedness they've never had before. Within a few days, they even feel the pull to pick up an old hobby, like playing the guitar or journaling, activities they haven't touched in years. This seemingly insignificant break in routine begins to pull forward old parts of themselves that have been buried under the weight of the loop. One small adjustment alarms the system, and new connections and opportunities follow. The best way to picture it is like gears in a machine. For years, you might have been turning the handle, feeling the gears slip with no traction, no matter how much energy you poured in. You weren't moving forward. Then, one day, almost silently, a single gear catches. The same motion you've been repeating for so long suddenly has grip. Momentum builds, and the whole system begins to hum with life. The difference between stuck energy and flowing alignment looks small on the outside, but inside, it changes everything. This isn't magic. It's a form of multiplication. A small, intentional shift in one area of your life naturally spills into another, creating a ripple effect. You choose to be patient in one frustrating conversation, and suddenly, you find yourself calmer through the rest of the day. You clean up your physical space, and you notice your thoughts untangling and becoming clearer. Inner change naturally alters external results. This is because your actions, no matter how small, are inputs into a system, and those inputs reshape the entire structure. The very fact that you found this video and are listening to this message is a perfect example of this principle. It is proof that you are already standing in the middle of a shift. The system is already rearranging itself to match who you are becoming. The tiny breakthroughs you're starting to notice are not random fragments. They are signals of a much larger recalibration already underway. Once you begin to see these subtle clues for what they are, not just fleeting moments of luck, but deliberate nudges toward your highest potential, the shift becomes harder and harder to ignore. To understand why these subtle shifts become visible, let's talk about a part of your brain called the Reticular Activating System, or the RAS. Think of it as your brain's personal filter, a kind of bouncer for your conscious mind. Its primary job is to sort through the billions of pieces of information bombarding you at any given moment and decide what is relevant enough to make it to your attention. Without the RAS, you would be overwhelmed by every sound, light, and sensation, unable to function. So, how does it decide what's relevant? It operates on a simple principle. Whatever you place at the center of your beliefs and priorities, the RAS highlights it everywhere. It's the reason why, when you start thinking about buying a specific car model, you suddenly see that exact car on every street. The cars were there all along. Your brain simply wasn't filtering for them. The RAS makes what is important to you stand out from the background noise. It's a powerful and automatic system that validates your current reality. Here's where it becomes a game changer. When your inner narrative and priorities shift, your RAS recalibrates. It's like changing the search terms on your internal Google. What was once invisible, new opportunities, supportive people, alternative solutions, suddenly comes into sharp focus. You're not just seeing more, you're seeing differently. You are literally rewiring your perception of reality. This is the scientific explanation for why someone who finally leaves a draining relationship begins to notice job offers or creative opportunities they never saw before. It's not that the opportunities appeared out of thin air. It's that their RAS, no longer prioritizing the energy-draining loop, was free to filter for new, life-affirming possibilities. They changed their internal filter, and the world reorganized to match. This empowerment doesn't come from trying to force outcomes directly. You can't perfectly manage every output in your life, but you can absolutely influence the inputs. You can choose where your attention goes, what actions you take daily, and who you keep close to you. These intentional inputs reshape your entire system from the inside out. When you consistently pour new, positive, and aligned energy into your system, the outputs begin to take care of themselves. It's less about forcing results and more about designing the conditions that make those results inevitable. When this clicks, the whole way life feels begins to change. You stop moving through your days as if you're being tossed around by chance. Instead, it feels as if life itself is moving with you. Instead of running uphill every day, you finally notice the ground shifting under your feet to guide your steps forward. Good outcomes stop looking like rare, random accidents and start becoming the natural rhythm of your path. You are not just a reactor to your environment. You are an active participant in its creation. This is the heart of what it means to be a co-creator of your reality. This brings us to a crucial distinction. Are you a victim of your circumstances, or are you a co-creator of your experience? The difference between these two mindsets isn't just semantics. It's a fundamental shift in how you navigate the world. When you see yourself as a victim, the world feels like something that just happens to you. You're at the mercy of external events, constantly on the defense, putting out fires that never seem to stop burning. Life is a series of unfortunate accidents, and your only job is to react. You spend years trying to micromanage every outcome, fix every problem, stop every setback, and yet, no matter how much effort you put in, life still feels unpredictable, messy, and unfair. This perspective is exhausting because it asks you to control what is ultimately uncontrollable, the outputs of the system. On the other hand, there are people who seem to move through life as if the path rises to meet them. They lose a job, and instead of spiraling, a better one shows up. They let go of a draining relationship, and new connections rush in like a breath of fresh air. People might call them lucky, but that's a surface-level assessment. What's really at play is a different system, a different way of being. They aren't forcing every outcome, they are adjusting the inputs, the beliefs, choices, and environments that quietly shape those outcomes. Life stops being a series of accidents and starts feeling more like a system you're consciously participating in. This is the strange and liberating part. Opportunities seem to appear almost magically when you release your grip on the identity that no longer fits you. Have you ever wondered why someone can stay in an unhappy situation for years with nothing changing, but the moment they finally walk away, everything begins to open up? A new job offer arrives, old passions are rediscovered, even their health begins to improve. It's not random. It's as if the system reorganizes itself once they let go of a version of themselves that wasn't aligned anymore. The internal shift reset the way their system filtered and attracted experiences from the outside world. The clearest way to picture this is like tuning into the right radio station. For a long time, you've been sitting there hearing mostly static. Every now and then, a song breaks through, but it fades just as quickly. Then, you nudge the dial a little, and suddenly, the music is clear. The songs were always being played, but you couldn't receive them until you were tuned in. That's how opportunities work. They were already out there, but you didn't have the frequency to notice them until your own system shifted. Empowerment here doesn't come from trying to control outcomes directly. You can't perfectly manage every output in your life, but you can absolutely influence the inputs. You can choose where your attention goes, what actions you take daily, and who you keep close to you. These intentional inputs reshape the entire system, and when they do, the outputs take care of themselves. It's less about forcing results and more about designing the conditions that make those results likely. When this clicks, the whole way life feels begins to change. You stop moving through your days as if you're being tossed around by chance. Instead, it feels as if life itself is moving with you. So, if you've heard that echo, if you've felt that shift, know this: you're not alone and you're not imagining things. Your system is evolving. The old loops are loosening their grip. You are in the process of becoming the next, more authentic version of yourself.